I thank you for coming back now, and we want to talk about some more information regarding the family relationship. But as we talk about this family relationship and the things that we're offering to you to help that family relationship and those parenting skills, we're also talking about things that would be very beneficial to you in many areas. For instance, we're going to go to our board here, and we're going to share with you a tool on conflict resolution. Okay? When we talk about conflict resolution, you've got to realize we're living in a world full of conflict. I'm kind of interested in the idea that God has provided us with a beautiful plan of salvation, the promises of a glorious heaven that we cannot even fully grasp in this world or this finite mind. But with that, after he provides this salvation and gives us this hope of eternal life, he leaves me in a world full of conflict. As a matter of fact, he said, in this world you will have tribulations or conflict. Okay? But be of good cheer, I've overcome the world, he says. So with this in mind, then, he intentionally leaves us in a world of conflict. As a matter of fact, I have to suggest to you, if you are a Christian, you have a different set of principles. Now, a Christian being a Christ follower. If you are a Christ follower, you have a different set of principles than what the world has. And I've got to believe that you have been upset more than once, as I have, as we see some of the trends going in our society. The concept of abortion and things of this nature that just goes so much against Christian principles. But anyway, with this in mind, we've got to be made to realize that we're going to have more conflict because we're Christians. I don't like this. I don't see this as good, and so forth. Those things are happening all around us. Now, the important part with that, then, I ask, well, why did God leave me in such a world of conflict? Because conflict is the growing place. Think about that now. You see, without conflict, we don't make changes. We just keep going with the flow. And one of the things that we've discovered about changes, it brings about growth. Okay? So conflict brings change. Change brings growth. Conflict in a marriage causes a marriage to grow, and that's what a marriage is about. It's growing to love one another, growing to understand one another, growing to try to be there for one another, growing with our compassion and caring. Now, when you put that into the role of the family, there we go. It's all about growing. The conflict brings the changes brings the growth in the family relationship, and children are growing in a very natural sense, but we're growing to understand one another, growing to relate to one another. We're going to show you the value of conflict and the value of using this tool in a family relationship when we start looking at what happens in many families today. But I want to also throw another note in there for you. This conflict resolution also works for businesses, for companies. You see, every company that's growing faces conflicts. They run into an obstacle that says, hey, we've got to make a change here. We'll get more manufacturing, and we'll get a closer relationship with our staff and our people, whatever, but we've got to make some changes. The end result of that, then, the conflict brings changes in the factory, in the business, and those changes bring about growth. Awesomely important that we see that the value of the conflict. You see, a lot of people don't like conflict. I worked with an individual once who supposedly shared a lot of conflict resolution principles, but he avoided conflict whenever he could, just didn't like it. Now, I don't mean to think that we have to create conflict, but if we don't have conflict, what we've got is a flow where everybody's going in the same direction and somebody's in charge and everybody just follows behind. And that's not really a healthy way to be. Because with it, if somebody else is in charge and I don't have a chance to think of the business, for instance. Okay, you've got those bosses sitting at the top of the ladder, so to speak, the CEOs, making decisions about things that they have no experience with. The one that has the experience is the one on the assembly line. The one that has the experience is the one that's putting it all together. So with this in mind, then, if the one on the top isn't listening to the one below, and you and I have probably been in that situation time and again, where someone makes some changes in the factory, someone makes some changes in a design or something or other, and now it comes down to us and you don't know how to make it work. Why? Because somebody on the top isn't listening to the ones on the bottom. Now there's where the conflict needs to be resolved. And so in a business world, we need to sit down with our personnel. We need to sit down and let each one share their opinions and share the information that they want to share, how they see the conflict touching them, and what they would look at for a resolution for the conflict. You see, what we're really talking about is not just the conflict, but finding ways to resolve the conflict. That's what the goal is, conflict resolution. And I like to, if you recall back, if you're watching the section on anger management, I like to share a tool with you, something that we can use, and that's what we're going to do in just a few moments. So I'm going to challenge you to get a pencil and paper ready so you can copy this little tool down. It's not a big thing, but you'll see the importance of having it in hand and so forth so that you can use it with conflict resolution. Okay? So what we're looking at is a tool that can be used in the home, in the family. I want to talk before we get through about family meetings, and therefore I'll share with you how to use this conflict resolution with family meetings and what difference it will make to your family. In the sense of, okay, the big CEO at the top of the ladder wants to listen to the man that's putting the material together on the assembly line. If he doesn't listen, he's not going to find the best way, the smoothest way, the most productive way to turn out his product. And so if that be the case, then he wants to listen for the good of the company.